love is gone, that your love is gone.
Breaking up. Being a producer isn't easy, especially when you're a producer at Big Hit, the biggest entertainment industry out there. But what makes it even harder is the fact that you're dating Min Yoongi. I let out a sigh as I grabbed all the paperwork scattered on my desk in which Mr. Sehyuk asked for and walked out of my office. I marched down the hall, the stack of papers in my hands decreasing my normal speed. The sound of muffled crying quickly caught my attention. I stopped walking. It sounded like it's coming from Yoongi's studio? I silently placed the stack of papers beside the doorframe of the room, before tiptoeing towards the door, careful not to make a sound. Something tells me that I shouldn't go in. But how do I tell her, Namjoon? You instantly recognize the voice as your boyfriend's. The sound of his broken and hoarse voice made your heart feel heavy in your chest. You need to tell her, Yoongi Hyung. One way or another, she wouldn't want to find out from anyone else. Namjoon's voice spoke from inside. What are they talking about? It's not that easy, Namjoon. I can't just tell someone I love that I suddenly need to break up with her. I took a slight step back from the door, my eyes brimming with tears. My breathing became irregular as I continued listening in. Yoongi Hyung. Namjoon's stern voice spoke. It's either her or your career. I twisted the door handle, taking only one step inside the room. My cheeks were glistening, and I was biting my lip to prevent my crying from being heard. Both Yoongi and Namjoon stood up from the floor they were sitting in seconds ago, shock and regret evident on their faces. You don't have to tell me anything, Yoongi? I spoke, my voice low and cracked. Baby, Yoongi tried rushing towards me, but I quickly slipped out the door and started running down the hall, forgetting the papers that laid beside the doorframe. I need to be away from here, and fast. What is into you? Jungkook's head buzzed at the interviewer's question that only Jungkook is supposed to answer. He blinked a couple times before directing his full attention to the interviewer. She's something else. Kook let out a light chuckle. She's that sort of thing in your life which you never knew you needed so much to continue living. She gives me hundreds of reasons every day to continue to love and cherish her with all that's in me. Jungkook paused before slightly lowering his head and continued. Is the most special thing to me. She's the reason I wake up happy every day. She's the reason I always get back up when I get knocked down. She taught me that it's okay to sometimes feel weak, but you always have to remain strong for those around you. She taught me that loving myself isn't selfish, only self-care. She taught me to be as optimistic as I can about everything life throws at me. She taught me that getting what you want in life is not easy, and that hard work is necessary if you want something specific. Jungkook looked back up, making direct eye contact with the interviewer. I've always been shy my entire life. I surrounded myself with these walls that I build around me, to shield myself from others. She's the only one, besides Bangtan, that I let climb over my walls and enter my life completely. And that was probably the best decision I've ever made. She taught me. Jungkook noticed everyone's stares on him, both Bangtan and the interviewer, whose eyes were filled with admiration. I'm getting a little carried away, aren't I? Jungkook spoke, earning laughter from all those in the room in return. He laughed along too. I'll stop myself before I get too far. But I love In, and I hope I never lose her. When you're insecure. For fuck's sake. I ripped the piece of paper from my notebook, scrunching it up in my hands. I dug my hands into my hair in frustration, lowering my head as my breathing began to deepen. Can I do anything right? I'm sitting on my desk in my bedroom, attempting to write something. Anything to publish. I've dreamt of becoming a writer ever since I was a little girl, and I decided to start chasing my dream recently. But for some weird reason, my brain cannot think of anything. Why am I trying, anyway? What makes me think that people will read my writing and enjoy it? What makes me think that publishing my book will work in the first place? What if the publishing company rejects it, and I have no other place to turn to? Do I restart, write an entirely different plot, or do I just give up? I didn't realize I was crying until I noticed my tears staining my notebook. My head shot up once I heard my bedroom door opening. Hosok took one look at me, and his eyes softened. He silently entered my bedroom, closing the door behind him. He sat on my bed and motioned for me to do the same. I suppressed a sigh as I got up and sat beside him, sniffing. Hosok immediately embraced me, resting his head on my shoulder. I immediately relaxed at his touch before wrapping my arms around him as well. We pulled away after a few seconds, which felt like my minutes. Hosok swiped his thumb underneath my eye. I looked down to my lap, but looked back up once Hosok raised my head with his finger. "Are you thinking about it again?" his gentle voice spoke. I nodded. I can't help it. Giving up is just so much easier. Hosok immediately shook his head. No, don't think like that. How can I not? Hosok, what makes you think people will like my work? Small sobs slowly started escaping my lips. I wiped my hand on my cheek, biting my lip. Hosok looked like he was in pain as he opened his mouth to speak. What you are doing right now, every writer out there went through it. Struggling to think of something, just sitting on your desk in frustration because you can't figure out how to write a specific plot. But what happens after that? You suddenly just click. Your head is just clouded with all different sorts of ideas, possibilities. It's as if a bomb went off, and after it explodes you immediately start writing what you're thinking about. What you're doing right now will lead to something so big, so extraordinary. Giving up is the easy way out, but working hard to achieve your dreams will feel so much better when your work gets the recognition it deserves. Hosok took a slight breath before continuing. You're the most talented person I know. You have such a bright future ahead of you. I know that for a fact. But you just need to work hard, consistently, to get what you want. I'll be there for you, by your side, every step of the way. I took one look at the sincere eyes Hosok was looking at me with, before embracing him for the second time, my tears beginning to soak his shirt. I love you, Jimin. I love you so much. When your boyfriend cheats on you. 2 iced lattes, please. Jungkook spoke to the cashier, a smile written in his lips. I was standing beside him as he scavenged for money in his pocket to pay. We already agreed that he was going to pay this time, and the next time we hang out, I will. The cashier received the money a couple seconds later. Before giving Jungkook the extra change, they assured us that our drinks will be delivered to our table shortly and advised us to take a seat. Jungkook immediately headed towards a booth in the corner of the coffee shop, enough to fit 2 people. We both slid into the opposite seats. Are we ever going to stop getting lattes? Jungkook asked. I shook my head. They're the best thing to happen to this world, so I don't think so. Jungkook let out a light chuckle, slightly shaking his head. A couple minutes passed, and soon enough, a small tray accompanied with 2 cups were placed in front of us. Both Jungkook and I thanked the staff member and wasted no time in beginning to drink our lattes. We exchanged small conversation as we took light sips of our drinks. I'm glad I'm hanging out with my best friend again. I really missed you during tour. Jungkook spoke, his voice genuine. I felt warmth in my chest as I smiled at the man before me. I missed you too. The ding sound of the shop's door rung throughout the shop, signaling a new customer was entering. I expected anybody to walk through the door. But what I didn't expect was to see Hyunjin, my boyfriend of 2 years, to walk in with a girl I don't know practically attacked to his waist. A lump immediately formed in my throat at the sight of the two. Jungkook noticed me tensing, my eyes beginning to glisten. What's wrong? He asked, turning around towards the door. He immediately spotted Hyunjin. Jungkook clenched his fist tightly. He quickly drank the last drops of his latte before getting up. Come on. He motioned for me to get up as well, his voice firm and demanding. I got up, feeling the desperate need to leave the shop. I watched as Hyunjin and the girl sat on a table not too far from us. Jungkook grabbed my hand and started walking towards the front door. Or so I thought. Before I can react to what was happening, Jungkook forced Hyunjin out of his chair and pushed him to the ground. The entire shop looked at us, due to the sound of Hyunjin's body crashing on the ground. Jungkook looked mad. Furious. His face was bright red, veins popping out of his neck. He kneeled down beside him and began to deliver punches to Hyunjin's jaw. his groans of pain echoing throughout the shop. "What the fuck were you thinking?" Jungkook shouted, not stopping his act of violence. "Stop it!" The girl that was sitting opposite Hyunjin shouted, getting up from her seat. The shop staff members began to rush towards us, disappointed looks on their face. I took this as my cue to stop the scene that unfolded. "Jungkook, that's enough." My voice rung throughout the shop. I attempted to pull Jungkook off Hyunjin, succeeding after a few forceful pulls. Jungkook stood up again, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Hyunjin was on the ground, groaning in agony. A few bruises have already formed on his jaw. "Sir, ma'am, I may have to ask you both to leave." The cashier we ordered from previously stood beside me, motioning for us to exit through the door. "I never want to see you near her again." Jungkook spat, looking down at Hyunjin. He took my hand and left the shop without another word. "Thank you, T. Next time's on me." I winked as the waiter took the paid bill off the table and walked away. Taehyung chuckled. "Over my dead fucking body. Do you want to go home now?" I shrugged. "Whatever you want to do." Taehyung and I both finished eating dinner a little while ago. The sky was a complete black, specks of stars giving off a small amount of light, lighting up the sky. The full moon stood high up, far away from where I was. Light rain drizzled the pavement and everything in between, creating some sort of a relaxing melody. This is just what I wanted. Having dinner, in a closed-off restaurant, with my boyfriend, beside the window as I watched what was happening outside. Well, one of my two boyfriends. It pains me every day that I can never find the courage to break up with Kimun, the guy I met before Taehyung. About a year into our relationship and getting bored was a daily habit for me. He was never home, and when he was, he wouldn't even look at my face and go straight to bed instead. Then, I met Taehyung. I'm playing with him, I know I am. But I know he would never look at me the same if I tell him he isn't the only man I'm in a relationship with. He would drop me in a heartbeat. I promise myself to break up with Kimun as soon as I can, but only when I'm ready, which I don't think is anytime soon. I want to go home. I'm tired. Taehyung yawned as he stood up, signaling for me to stand up along with him. We both thanked the restaurant staff members before marching outside. The rain immediately collapsed on us. It seemed much heavier than it was a couple minutes ago. Both Taehyung and I didn't have an umbrella, so we were stuck to each other's sides, trying our best to ignore the rain. "In." An all too familiar voice shouted. They didn't seem too far away. Both Taehyung and I stopped walking and turned around. "Who was that?" Taehyung asked, his eyebrows scrunched in confusion. His hair was starting to get soaked from the rain. I tried my best to figure out the face of the person who just got out of their car and was now running towards me, but couldn't. "Come on, let's go." I pulled Taehyung with me again, eager to get out of here. Because I knew exactly who was coming towards me. Suddenly, I was yanked back, Taehyung's grip suddenly loosening on me. The figure spun me around. Kimun's furious face stood inches away from mine. Kimun," I stuttered. I already felt the tears brimming at the eyes from the look that glazed over Kimun's irises. Hurt, betrayal, anger, everything. "Get the fuck away from her." Taehyung's deep voice spoke as he approached Kimun, looking to start a fight. Kimun quickly let go of my panting body and raised his hands in defeat. "I'm not coming here to fight. You, whoever you are. You see this girl over here?" Kimun spat, pointing his finger at me. "She's cheating on you. I'm her fucking boyfriend, and I'm guessing you are too. We've been together for almost 2 years. Taehyung's entire body seemed to shut down. His muscles dropped, his head lowered. He looked so defeated. After a couple seconds of silence, Kimun started speaking again. "I was coming home to surprise you. To fucking apologize for not being there for recently. How long has this been going on for? Huh? How long have you been fucking cheating on me for?" Tears streamed down Kimun's cheeks as he shouted. He sounded so hurt, so broken. It's happening. What I feared the most is currently unfolding beneath my eyes. My legs felt like they were about to give out on me as I bit my lip to hold in my sobs. I took a step towards Kimun. "Baby, please." "No, I don't want to hear it from you." "In." Kimun stepped back as if I was fire. "We're done. You hear me? Done." Your shit will be on the front porch when you come home." And with that, he walked off, his body looking weak as he trudged back to his car. My blurring vision shifted towards Taehyung, who has been silent the entire time. I tried to place my hand on his arm. "Tae, don't touch me." Taehyung flinched, taking a large step back away from me. My heart felt like it had been shattered into 1,000 more pieces only from that simple action. "Don't you dare touch me." Despite Taehyung's harsh words, his voice was cracking. He looked like he was on the edge of a breakdown. "I can't fucking believe you," he muttered, shaking his head. Without allowing me to reply, he walked off towards the opposite direction, small whimpers escaping his lips. I let out loud sobs as I tried to maintain my failing balance. What have I done?